Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Firepower Podcast. This is a podcast focused on all things Firepower, a comic book series by Robert Kirkman, Chris Samnee, Matt Wilson, and Russ Wooten. So today I'm joined by
Charlie.
And
and
Ali.
and we're going to be talking about Firepower, obviously, issues 2 and 3. So we've got a double feature episode today. But before we dive into that, I just want to say, how about that intro song by Wyatt Lane called Into the Fire? Isn't it just amazing?
It's awesome. When we were first thinking about doing this, we were like sampling a bunch of different music, a lot of it from Wyatt too. But the moment we both heard this song for the first time, we were like, "This is perfect." It's almost as if it was made for Firepower.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like right away when I heard it, it just goes with the comics, just tone and everything, and it's just great job, man. Love all his work too.
Yeah, I even went as far as to say that I didn't want to make this podcast unless we got that song because I was
Yeah.
just like, it's so good. I
Yeah.
just really liked it. And yeah, I'm just so glad that Wyatt, who's a friend of the channel, and just someone we've even had on other podcasts, Running Black podcast, as a guest. So just thank you so much, Wyatt. Check his work out. We're gonna have a link to his SoundCloud and other links to his work in our description. So please feel free to check that out. And yeah, thank you again for the amazing intro. Thank you for letting us use the song as our intro. So now we're going to be talking about something that came up this last week. And, since it was San Diego Comic-Con, we've also had the Eisner Awards. And my, oh my, I just want to say a big congratulations to Matt Wilson for winning the award for Best Coloring. And he's done work on Undiscovered Country at Image, Firepower at Image Skybound, Eternals, Thor, Wolverine at Marvel, and John the Impossible Monsters at Oni. So honestly, well deserved. We've talked about several times here how good Matt Wilson's work is, and we're glad that it's not going unnoticed because truly. I mean, I've read most of those books. I'm not keeping up with Eternals or Wolverine, but I'm keeping up with pretty much all the other titles there. I dropped Undiscovered Countries, wasn't a big fan of the book, but I do think his work is impeccable on everything that I've read, and I always look forward to a Matt Wilson colored book.
No, definitely, and he really brings the books to life. His colors are impeccable. I'm glad he's finally getting recognition for it.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly what you guys said. Sign off on that. Bravo.
Yeah, hell yeah, glad I have the team's approval. But yeah, so congratulations, Matt, and can't wait to get more firepower and everything else. So now that we're gonna get started here, we're starting with issue number 2, and then we're gonna go on to issue number 3, and that'll be it for this episode. So just a warning that we're gonna be talking spoilers and everything else. So if you haven't read those issues, make sure you go read them. And as always, I feel like, firepower. One thing that's actually going to be addressed in the RC Coda letter section later on, but every issue is so quick. I feel like it's a quick read, but there's also you could just sit there and appreciate the artwork for a long time. There's just a lot to appreciate there.
I think Firepower does a lot of visual storytelling. It's not as wordy as a lot of other comics, but the visual storytelling carries that part of it a lot longer. And there's a part in the RC Coda, like you said, where they mention it, but that's like the cool thing about comic books, right? You don't just read. But a lot of times you're looking at the pictures and the drawings, and you can get a lot more story just from looking at that and noticing little details. Especially with Chris Samnee, he's very good with his consistency and little details that he adds, and we'll see a lot of that in issue 2 especially.
Yeah, big time. And not skipping too far to the RC Coda, but I just wanted to mention like my favorite singular quote from that was what you were just mentioning is like you can make a comic seem like either a Michael Bay movie or a Stanley Kubrick movie, depending on how you decide to read it. And I really love that. Like just like you can just looking at all the little details, like you can really appreciate the storytelling. And even though there's not a lot of words on the page, you can still tell there was a lot of like direction and communication from Robert to Chris Samnee, and it's awesome.
For sure. And yeah, that's one of the best lines. And we'll get to more of that later. But let's start with the issue 2. So actually, we start with And this is one of the things that when I was first reading this series made me fall in love with it even more, even though at that point I'd already been sold on it, was this epic battle that starts right away with issue 2. And we've talked about how last episode how coming off the original graphic novel format for the Prelude, Kirkman and Samnee almost felt you could tell they felt really comfortable with that format, and it allowed them to basically, uh, tell the story in the best way possible, or at least in ways that adapted to their strengths as creators. And we saw that with, Chris Samnee, and that's something he'll mention later on in the RC Coda, is that he likes to do these long silent pages with a lot of action. He likes that. That's what he likes to do. And Robert Kirkman, even though we're used to him giving more dialogue or just more writing in general, I think he obviously he understands who he's working with here and the talent that he has. So he's allowing them to kind of flex that talent and show it off. And I really appreciate that. And like you said, there's a lot of details there to appreciate beyond just the words.
Yeah, for sure. And this whole I just wanted to say, I think they mentioned it in the back, but for how dark and like for a completely black, like this fight scene basically starts place and the house is a pitch black room. But everything with the light colors and when they're actually fighting with the red and orange backgrounds and stuff, it really just makes it stand out. And you can still tell it's a completely dark room, but it makes it so much more like visually appealing to look at and follow. And yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we get like a really long fight, eh?
Yeah, I think it was like 16 pages of just straight fighting, and I'm not sure what the like technical term is, but like the way the fight was choreographed was so good. It's so easy to go from panel to panel and follow the action of what's happening, and it's very evident in this long-winded fight.
Did you say panel to panel? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so so you were, yeah, no, totally, I agree with you. The way that the book is structured, it flows beautifully. There's a lot of funny moments happening here, and I just loved it. Like the first thing I thought of, after like, oh my God, this is so good when I was reading this and enjoying it, I thought like this would translate really well into animation. Like just like imagine an episode starting after the last episode was a cliffhanger, and then it starts like this intense fight that lasts for like a few minutes of the episode. You know what I mean? Like an animated episode, and it's like you could just totally see this being a TV show, and it would translate really well, or even an anime show or whatever. And so like this whole sequence would be like a really fun one to watch. You know what I mean? Where like Owen's
Yeah.
trying to, yeah, he's just trying to fight off like he doesn't know yet who for sure ninjas, and all at the same time, not trying to wake up anybody.
Yeah, that just shows to me. It showed me how much like of a badass he was, just how carefully he can fight, and you can tell he's still trying, but like it almost looks like effortlessly. Like if you go on, I think it's the fifth page there, like his face in the top page with him in all the black, like you just see the confidence on his face and just the way the glass tips over, he catches it carefully, puts it back, takes care of that first ninja, knocks him out of the bedroom. And then I love you just see him quickly just grab up and just quietly close that door. So just the little things, just trying to keep it more quiet for for the wife,
And
and I love that.
it happens throughout the whole fight, from room to
Yeah,
room. Like his
yeah.
primary objective feels like he's trying to keep it as quiet as possible.
Keep them
And
asleep.
and
Yeah.
yeah, the ninjas are like easy, he's not even worried about them. He's just worried about not making any noise. No, but I just do want to mention real quick. It looks like Owen is the kind of guy who sleeps with his socks on. I'm not sure what to feel about that.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, one thing I gotta say is that this book is written in such a well-structured way that you get the page reveal on the page turn in a very satisfying way. So when you're reading the book, like Charlie said, he gets the glass of water. He manages to keep it from falling down, and then he knocks that ninja out of the bedroom. You see him, and the last thing you see on the page is him grasping, like reaching for the door, and he closes it, and you hear the click, and Kelly's inside, not awake. But then you turn the page and you see three ninjas, and I just like it's like that Dark Souls or like Elden Ring moment when you just killed the one mob and you're so happy, and then like three
Yeah,
more come at you, and you're
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
fuck.
Level
So
level two.
Yeah, it's just like I love that moment. That's another like perfect for a TV moment. This would be like, the music goes like and you're just like whoop. Anyway, but yeah, that was just such a cool scene, and he has his damn it moment, and the fight gets elevated. We get all three of them at once fighting him in the page. It's awesome. Like they said, there's some masterful color work here because depending on how, if they did the pages in all silhouettes, it could have been really good, but it could have been a bit too dark. But I love the masterful color work here. Everything just comes up beautifully. I think the visor choice for the ninja, because they talk about how they did the ninja appearances. I think the visor choice is really good, and it not only gives it an aesthetic edge, but it's also expressive. Do you know what I mean? Because in the dark, it has like an ominous
With the
glow.
glare too.
Yep.
Yeah. A quick little detail I like too is once the three ninjas, well, he found out that it was three ninjas, and he started throwing fireballs at them. I think we could tell that Owen has gotten even better at using the firepower because he's just doing it one-handed firepowers now at the same time, like dual wielding fireballs, throwing them at the same time. I thought that was a pretty cool little detail just to show us how far or how much better Owen has gotten in controlling the firepower.
Yeah, yeah, and that sound effect too. Like they also talked about that in the RC coda, like the actual how
Mhm.
Chris Samnee draws his own sound effects, and I just love that. Like he can make sure it's in the spot that he's really satisfied with, and that just fits perfect with the page, and it looks perfect every time.
Yeah, he wants to be in control of like the look and the placements and everything, and I totally understand. I mean, it's been working out so well, and I wouldn't have it any other way personally. And like you said, it saves Russ some time. So you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
saves Russ some
yeah, for
time.
sure, sure.
Yeah, some time in work, so there you go. But yeah, it just we get this really long, amazing fight, and I'm not one of the people who's going to complain when it comes to issues like these, depending on the frequency and the if it's appropriately done and everything. But in this case, I think it is. And yeah, I'm not complaining about the format because I think it's really well done. Like Robert said, take in the details, enjoy the beautiful artwork, enjoy the moments, and even just like these little moments where he looks at his boy, just to make sure he's still asleep, and there's like that little sigh of relief, and you can see the breath coming out of his mouth. Like I love the like attention to detail there. So
Storytelling we're talking about, you don't always need to say it in words what's happening. Sometimes it's just the imagery alone can convey what the artist is trying to tell you.
and then you see
Yeah,
like a little bit of hint of their character when he throws the
Hmm.
dinosaur back to Doug. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah,
He
puts
cares. He
him to
really
bed.
cares.
Samurai, I mean
yeah.
ninja style. Yep.
But then after we see Owen unleash that first fireball, I was surprised. I was a little concerned something was gonna catch on fire, but he's got the temperature control down, so he
Dude, he
knocked
got
him
the
over.
blanket. He
Yeah,
was ahead
yeah,
of the
yeah. That
game,
that's
man.
true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So he knocks him over, and he falls off the balcony, and he's trying to pat him down, and you see in the next panel just peanut butter just peeking over the
God damn
couch,
peanut
just like,
butter.
oh, what the heck's going on? And this is where peanut butter just absolutely spoils everything. And you see another awesome sound effect, the arf, like just the bark from peanut butter, and the hands over the face, the hands over the eyes go, and Owen's just like crap, like what's happening. And the next page is yeah, pretty
I,
good
I I
reaction.
love this next page because it
Oh
shows
yeah.
you a lot about Kelly that you didn't know before. Like she's not messing around. Immediately
Oh
pulled out
yeah.
the shotgun, ready to protect her family. I love that page.
And that he just like he immediately communicates with her. Like you get to see a little bit more of how they operate together as a couple in tense situations, and it seems like they're very I don't want to say codependent. I don't think that's the right word, but they cooperate a lot. They're very close. They
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they have good camaraderie. I mean, they have good chemistry
yeah, yeah,
together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, they're trying to figure out everything. And that's the reason we see that Owen didn't want her to wake up is because he suspects that it was he correctly suspects that it was Ma Guang and them trying to persuade persuade physically, I guess, the family. And it is questionable. Like I totally understand Owen's position here and why he's pissed because it's like why the hell would you bring this into our home? Like a very questionable way for Ma Guang. Like I understand it does show his desperation, but if I was Owen, I totally understand why he's really pissed there.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely makes sense on Owen's part. But you see Magwan come in here lurking in the shadows. Um and he's you can just tell how he's just so done with this life, and you could tell in the last issue too. Like he's just all he's been trying to do is keep this stuff away from his kids and move on with the next chapter of his life, but it just he can't get away from it.
Agreed. And now it's like it's coming and haunting him, and it's ironic because he says, if you wish, Magwang says before he leaves his house, if you wish to bury your head in the sand, I wish you happiness until the world burns down around you. And it's kind of cruel, like this dark, but that's when Kelly's like, "Is he talking about the dragon?" And Owen's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah." It's just like ridiculous. So we get to see that even after all these years, despite everything that's happened, and the fact that he has time to process what's happened, sorry, that Owen's still not really a believer of the whole dragon thing. And
Yeah.
like I just look at the next page right there, holding up the shirt with the towel, sorry, or sorry, the blanket with the hole in it from when he put out the fire. You just see like peanut butter there, like so happy with the treat and everything. Oh my God.
And it's just awesome. I just love the consistencies of all the panels. I know, like, again, they talk about this later, but just the small consistencies. Like sometimes you'll see in comics, like if they burn a little thing, in the next panel you can see that thing in the background and it's completely fine. You know what I mean? Like they don't pay attention to that detail. But I just love this stuff. It's just
Eh,
awesome.
they like you said, they mentioned it in the back in the RC Coda, and it's actually Chris Samnee's bedroom. He
Yeah.
used his bedroom as the reference for like where
Yeah,
this
I
fight
love that.
happened,
I love
and
that.
Remember what
he talked about
Farigato
how it
said,
kept him.
kids? References are good. It's like,
Yes.
Oh,
some
for
people
sure.
say,
Yeah.
yeah, like references are bad. A lot of good artists use references. Yeah, I just want to know, like, what questionable thing did Kelly do so that she had to sleep with the chest with a shotgun inside it, right in front of their bed? Like what, what skeletons is she hiding in her closet? That's all I want to know. But yeah, like we see that even as they're discussing what to do next, and she lets him know, and I think this is a good rational thing, rational next step. She lets Owen know that it's time to teach the kids some self-defense. And right as we see that, I guess it is the appropriate thing to do because there's a ninja right outside their bedroom listening to everything they're saying. And my God, I just gotta say, bedrooms in this series, they really need. We need to buy curtains for everybody in this series. It seems to be one of the biggest villains in this series. It's like the elevator boss, okay? It's like people need curtains in this comic book because, my God, there's been a lot. This is going to be a recurring theme throughout this comic book. I'm calling it right now, and spoilers, I actually do know because we've read up to date. But yeah, people need curtains in this comic book, and if you're not caught up, you're going to see why. It's a big villain.
Yeah, kind of an unorthodox villain there, but definitely a villain all to itself. And I love this thing. You see this other ninja lurking outside of the window, and I love how it looks the same, like the ninjas look similar. But I think they do have like a different belt design. Like they are a little tad different in a way.
No, that's what I thought too. I thought the
Yeah.
ninja on the window was a little different from the ones
Yeah.
inside. I couldn't tell if that was intentional or not, but I think it is. Yeah.
I
I
like
think
the.
that
Sorry, go ahead.
That's what I no, I was just saying that's kind of just what I picked up personally, but I just love that, again, just those little details.
No, like, to your point, actually, I like that because I think he also said that, during his formative years, one of the biggest influences he had for that kind of aesthetic in the ninjas was like Daredevil's The Hand, right? So I like that little
Yep,
like
yep.
callback to
Right,
that.
right,
He
right.
made it
Yeah.
his own
That's
and
awesome.
everything. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. We get to see the ninja kneel there before a certain someone in their Jordan 6s, and then we look up and we see it's Wei Lun. And it's kind of scary because well, first of all, Waylon's upgraded to the Beats, so now you know he's a piece of
Oh
shit.
yeah. Oh
and,
yeah.
and now he's got the Jordan 6s to match the aesthetic. But what do we see here? The reveal that he has a Scorched Earth Clan tattoo on his hand. I
Yeah.
mean, holy shit! Like this was a bit of a bummer reading it because I know myself and the guys here, we were getting a little bit attached to this character. We really liked this character, and he seemed to be, the the one of the best characters of the series, and then we see this, and we're just like, oh. So what did you guys think of this reveal?
Yeah, I was surprised by this too. I was curious too. Like he seems pretty loyal to the Scorched Earth clan already. I was curious if that's a permanent tattoo or some henna or something. But that's some dedication right there.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
I think that kind of gives credence to what you were saying about the ninja being different because Magwang and his three ninjas are from the temple, right? They're not from the Scorched Earth clan. So I think this is a different ninja working for um, Wei Lun and the Scorched Earth clan. So I think you're right. The ninjas are definitely different.
Yep. And we're probably gonna figure out something more. But yeah, before we dive into the next issue, let's talk about one of our favorite parts of Firepower. And this was early on in the series, so at this point they still didn't have a letter series, and they make some jokes about that at the beginning. But we do get a basically director's commentary, and at this point they didn't really have a name for it, but later on it got named RC Coda. So we get RC Coda, and this one of the things Charlie mentioned earlier was the distinction between like, how you could read a comic, it could be a Michael Bay or Stanley Kubrick movie, and I agree with that to some extent. But yeah, like one of the things that you should take away from that part is that comic books are a unique medium in the sense that they combine those two things in a very fundamental way. The reading and visual reading and reading. I guess visual reading. You're also visual reading like letters, but reading letters and reading art. I guess you could say. So yeah, they combine those two things in a unique way, and it's almost kind of like watching a movie. It's like the cheapest way to make a movie when you really think about it. So yeah, you gotta admire the artwork. It's a big part of it. I would say like you're in most cases when you're reading a comic book, you're looking at the artwork more than you're reading the letters because it's a bigger part of I mean, I'm not saying it's worth more or anything, but it's like it takes up bigger space on the page. So you're spending a lot of time looking at the artwork, and you gotta admire it. And it's the same thing when you're looking at a movie, right? When you're watching a movie, you're not just looking at one element of the movie. You're not just looking at like the CGI or the graphics. There's directing, there's cinematography, there's sound effects, there's score. There's so many different things that make a movie what a movie is, and make it compelling, and make a good movie. And in this case, it's the same thing with comic books. You have writing, you have lettering, you have coloring, you have inking, and you have to admire all those things.
Chris
So
mentioned how he's been working with Matt Wilson since 2010 and 2011. So they are both very comfortable working with each other. And they mentioned how it's kind of difficult to show that the whole scene is happening at night and it's supposed to be dark, but Matt's colors really conveyed the nighttime while also having different colors for everything. And then he also mentioned that certain panels with Owen when he's fighting, when I think Charlie mentioned it earlier, the background turns like orange or something like that, and
mhm.
that's they try to use that like to show Owen's skill or something special that only Owen knows how to do, and I kind of like that kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, that's where we get the next part of this coda, and that's something Charlie also mentioned earlier was how Chris Samnee likes to do. He's passionate about lettering, and if he could hand letter all the books he does, he would do it. But he feels that his handwriting's not good enough, and his eyes are too weak to manage it, and the wrist won't be able to handle it, which is totally, those are all valid reasons. So, he likes to fully do his sound effects and hand lettering, and it's because he feels like 99% of the sound effects should be part of the artwork, and that for that reason he wants to be 100% in control of it. And I like that because you feel like it makes a very big difference. Like we said, we pointed out specifically in one of the previous episodes, I believe, is during Prelude, where we're showing that, well, one fireball where there's things happening in the background of it. It was a very dynamic piece of imagery, and there was a lot to it. So, yeah, I find it funny he's using the specific words anal retentive. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I also really liked one of these last points here. I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on it too. Was both their loves of cliffhangers too. After like we see an
Yeah.
awesome one here with Wei Lun standing there, but I love their point of just saying like if it's a very satisfying ending, like what reason is there to go back to it? So I do like that. I don't like I think there is an extent, like those very forced cliffhangers that don't really turn into anything, and it just sometimes that gets too consistent, and then they're just doing that to try to keep you there. I feel like that sometimes happens too. But with this, I think they do a really good job.
It's funny too. Kirkman says sometimes it'll seem like there is a cliffhanger, and then another 2 pages added with a better cliffhanger. And you can literally see that here.
Yeah.
The comic could have ended with the ninja watching through their window, but no, you flip a couple more pages and you see an even bigger cliffhanger
I mean,
with
Rogue Sun did
with the
that
tattoo.
recently too, right?
Yeah,
With the first few issues. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I agree, but it's like, hello, is this your first time reading a Robert Kirkman series? Like, this is how Kirkman does most of his comic book series. He always ends like that. Like, have you read Invincible or
Yeah.
Oblivion Song or Outcast or anything? Like, he always ends issues like that because he wants you to be excited for the next one. And he mentions that. He says that to a certain extent, if he doesn't leave you saying, and us over at Radiant Black podcast and Radiant Black readers, we feel this way every single month. It's like if you didn't feel like at the end of the issue you're just like, bam, I really want the next issue, then he feels like he kind of failed. And I always feel that way about a Firepower issue. I always feel like, damn, I want the next issue because it's so exciting. And yeah, sometimes it's a double-edged sword with the tempo in terms of the way they like it, the OGN format, because yeah, some issues are just all action, but at the same time, I wish you kind of had something more substantial. And it's like, yeah, I agree that there's visuals and everything, but it's just like it's just like once you get, it's not even me complaining. It's like once you get a taste of that Prelude format, you just want more.
yeah.
That's really
I
what it is.
I mean I think Firepower would be a better read for some people if you read it in a collected form. Like I think
Hmm.
the first 2 or 3 volumes were just collected. And if you just go through it like that, you can go through like the first volume, I'm pretty sure, in one night easily.
Totally. So yeah, moving on to one of the last parts of the RC code is like they actually compare it to the Incredibles of ninja manga, and Robert Kirkman says, yeah, it's like the Incredibles, but Kung Fu Family instead of superheroes. And I kind of feel that. I think that's how I sold it to some of the people who, they were curious about it, who, like I was telling Charlie and Matt, like Marty and all the other friends and of the podcast and readers who are interested in this, and other, who've read other Kirkman's work like Invincible and other stuff, and they were like, how is that? I'm like, it kind of has elements like Invincible where you have like people with powers, but at the same time there's much more camaraderie. It's much more like there is world, scale stuff, like threatening scale stuff, and kind of super heroics, but it's not superhero in particular. It's more like martial arts slash, yeah, kung fu. And yeah, it's been such a good time, I think. And yeah, I would say it's kind of like The Incredibles.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'd say The Incredibles, except like, and one of Chris Samnee's specialties of what he said is like how good he is of drawing people in normal clothes. Like just like you don't have all these flashy costumes. You have the cool slick looks of all the ninjas and stuff, but you don't have all these flashy costumes that gives you really the feel of a superhero comic, but it's yeah, it's still awesome.
And we'll see
Yeah.
a lot of more of that Incredibles like influencer parallels, I guess, in the next issue.
Yeah, so that's it for issue number 2 and RC Coda. I guess one of the last things they make a joke about is that they say, and then peanut butter will get to be the star, and it's like Kirkman says, and yes, and then it's gonna be peanut butter all the time, and just like, you know what? I wouldn't mind a peanut butter one shot, just the world through his eyes or her eyes. I'm not sure what. I think it could
Imagine,
be.
imagine like a retelling of the fight through Peanut
Mm.
Butter's eyes.
Yeah, no, I would love it. Something like that Hawkeye issue, they did in the
Oh
fraction
yeah,
run,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, with Pizza Dog, with Lucky the Pizza Dog. Anyway, let's move on to issue number 3. So we've got, same team here. We've got Firepower number 3 by Robert Kirkman, Chris Samnee, art, Matt Wilson, colors, Russ Wooten, letters. And yeah, actually, this is one of my favorite pages, first pages
Oh yeah.
of yeah, because it's so funny. This one, the one I was, I always think this is so funny because I've lived this, but you get like they're living their, middle America suburbs house, and they've got the, sun shining, sun's rising, morning here for the Johnson family. Kelly's waking up all the kids. You see Doug, sitting in the bed playing what looks like to be a Switch, and he's just like getting dressed, in a minute, whatever. And she wakes up, Kelly wakes up Haley, who's just like, oh my God, I'm so tired, can't I skip? And the page is amazing, so expressive. I love it. I just love Haley, honestly, one of my favorite characters. And so, we see Owen outside with peanut butter. He looks like he's just walking him outside the house, like getting him ready to go move to the bathroom. And then there's just this funny panel where Owen is just looking at peanut butter dead in the eyes while he's taking the shit. And then he just says to himself, "Oh God, don't make eye contact."
I love that. I love that. I will say that has happened with my dog before. That's just awesome.
Oh yeah, same here. Oh yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things that happens, unfortunately. Like, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, it's just
Yep.
randomly, and then you're just like, what is going on? But yeah, we see we see Kelly in her officer uniform talking to Owen. You know, the breakfast's all ready, which by the way looks absolutely delicious. And yeah, so he's gonna, Kelly lets him know she wants him to start the self-defense ASAP, and Kelly's a bit. She's kind of acting like she can't even eat. There's some nerves, so she's just having coffee. And
I
what's his
mean, they
name?
didn't have a great night's sleep. I'll tell you
No,
that much.
Doug wants her bacon. Asks for her bacon, and she says you've had enough, which I find hilarious. And they're getting the kids ready to go to school. That's when she gets into the car with her partner, and he's asking her how everything was, and she just straight up bluntly tells him while she's having her donut that the dogs woke us up. The dog woke us up. There was a ninja who attacked us. She get rid of the dog. He wasn't so
Yeah.
cute. And that's when her partner just looks at her, and he just thinks he's joking. But little do we know, there's a
Yeah, I
little
love that.
more.
It's
Yeah.
just something so ridiculous that it just doesn't make sense. But that look kind of is just an ominous look, and I remember like I had no idea this guy's motivations, and that was a really intriguing panel for me.
So yeah, while Callie's going to work and everything, we get this funny moment. This is one of my favorite panels, probably the whole book, to be honest. But he's explaining why they need to learn self defense while he's dropping them off at school, and Haley just gives him this snarky response that says, "I don't think a karate kick is going to save us from climate change, which is the most dangerous thing we're facing. So what's the point?" And Owen says, "Well, I was thinking of dangers that are a little bit more personal." And that's what she yells at him. And just the battle is so well done. I just love the way Haley looks at this battle. You can just feel the sass where she just says, "Climate change is very personal. It affects us all." And you could just like, I love the attention to detail. You can see like the little droplet of sweat on Owen's eyeball or eyebrow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the oh shit parent moment.
Damn.
But yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and just awesome, like always awesome facial expressions. And they go and Owen drops them off at school. And one thing I did notice at the bottom here, I love how I didn't really notice this the first time through, but just how similar Doug looks like Owen, just very, I don't know, just very deliberately. I just love that. I don't know if it's the exact same eyes they have, but you can just tell it's his kid, and I love that. And yeah, this next page you get to see some more of Larry, who we saw at the barbecue in the first issue.
Yeah, so Owen's at the work with Larry, and Larry, we get to see a little bit more of him where he's just like totally, this guy's brought in like a vase where he's trying to trade in for some money. It's like an antique from what it looks like. And, like Larry just makes up this bullshit story about how it's like, it's a rarity, but they made it during a time when there was lead-free paint and it didn't adhere to the porcelain well, blah, blah, blah. And then he's just like, $100 is how I'm willing to go. And he's like, $100, it's a deal. And then Owen's just like laughing in the background, and he looks around and he's like, "Why did you do that?" And that's where Larry tells him, they haggle less if you give them a story. Or sorry, they haggle more if you don't give them a story. And he's like, sometimes they're even true. And I love Larry. He's just so funny, man. I don't know why. Like I love him. He's hilarious.
He's a good salesman, man. He's a good salesman. He gets it done, even if he has to flavor the truth a little bit. He gets it
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
It reminds
yeah,
us of a
yeah.
certain someone from back home, man. Certain Ahmed. And we've known
Oh
some
my god.
salesmen like that, some greasy salesmen like that
He
in our
could sell
town.
you. He could sell you anything.
Anything. He can sell you
Anything.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
you see
Shout out
that.
to him though. Just shout out to him. He provided me with a lot of video games growing up.
it's true.
Okay, all right. I love it. This leads to this shows Owen how he's kind of making a living back home, and it shows this client just called and they were wondering, he's working on this client's table and they're wondering if they can get it a day early. And Larry's like, oh no, you haven't even started the staining. It's whatever. I'll tell them it's no good. And then Owen says, oh okay, no, I can get it done. And that just shows, like Larry says, I forgot you're working with a magician. You're gonna have to tell me how you get that stain to dry so fast. And I just love, I don't know exactly how stain works, but I'm assuming it
Look at
has to do with his
fireballs.
heat. Yeah, like
Yeah.
his heat.
Or
He's
just
able to
warms it up,
do
with his
that.
hands. Yeah.
I love
And
when
that,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that got me going of all the possibilities. He could be pretty creative with some of the jobs he could be choosing with that kind of power.
Oh yeah. I love how like he just has this really cool personality where it's his lunch break and he has this like he wants to go have his own lunch and we see this like little Spider-Man jump above like the fence. He walks up to the water tower thing and he just gets to the top and he has his lunch there overlooking the neighborhood and the city and it's a really beautiful view, but we get this gorgeous page of almost like introspection where he's having these guilty, memories of Ling Zan and their time together at the temple, and those intimate moments, and the next page you get one of the coolest pages so far where it's like basically summarizing what happened post, there's that little window of time at the end of the prelude, where the prelude ends, and then big between that and where we end off at the end of the prelude, where he is in the modern day with his family and Kelly and everyone. And this just shows you kind of the aftermath of what took place during the prelude before the time jump. So we see that apparently there was a revelation which caused certain initiates of the temple to basically change allegiance or something like that. I'm assuming this has to do with something with like the Wei having his tattoos of Scorched Earth Clan and everything. But yeah, it turns out that Ling Zan gets killed. Owen suspects Cho Fang, but people seem to think Owen's the murderer because rumors have spread that are trying to blame him. And
She
yeah,
they thought she they didn't think they found her body burnt or like with burn
yeah,
marks. So Owen's
yeah.
the only one with the firepower.
So yeah, that's we see that that's the reason why Owens left the temple because they tried to pin the murder of Ling Zan on him, and anyone that knows him, including Mark Wang, would know that he would never harm Ling Zan because he was in love with her.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he feels this extra guilt too, because you can kind of see like Ling Zan wanted Owen to come with him away after seeing this revelation, and Owen says, I'm sorry. Like he kind of still believed in the cause of the Temple of the Flaming Fist and whatever. And then that's when, after Ling Zan leaves, he finds her dead. So he kind of, in a way, you can always play those what ifs in your mind. What if I went with her? She might not be dead. But then you see the butterflies also on this page behind him when he's pouring the ashes too.
Yeah, it's a really cool page, and I'm glad that you brought up the butterflies because yeah, they are important. So, yeah, no, it's a gorgeous page. And the next page we see we're back with Kelly, and it's just another day at work. She's jumping trying to catch this crook. We see that the partner's got it all secure. He's doing the handcuffs, but the guy gives him a quick sucker, what do you call it? Headbutt. It's like a reverse headbutt at this point. And he takes his gun, tells him not to follow him and runs away. But we see Kelly's reflexes are lightning quick as she jumps with like a kung fu kick and just nails the dude in the face. And then he lands on this
That
rotten
was
ass trash. Yeah, no, amazing. Just
She's
badass.
badass. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
dude, she just
yeah.
badass.
holds the gun and tells her partner to cuff him properly and I'll give you your sawdown back. And I just love that. So, we get to see that Kelly is also learning from Owen. It's not just the kids who need to learn from Owen, but Kelly's also gone through her own, obviously, training with Owen. So, cool.
She can definitely handle her own, and we see her show that a little bit more later on. But yeah, we next page we go back. We're in Owen's backyard, and he's starting to train his kids. Haley is not very excited about this. She keeps asking why we're doing this. She's not really into it. But Doug is super excited. He wants to get it going. He wants to kick all the kids' ass at school. No one has to keep reminding him that it's only for
All the
self-defense.
butts.
All the butts.
Yeah.
With great
But, yeah.
firepower comes great fire responsibility.
Oh, God.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, always.
So yeah, no, yeah, we get the training here. It's fun because they seem to be having a good time. You know, it's like that little montage scene you would see in a movie. You know, they're like fixing their form. Owen seems to be having a good time, and then at one point they're just like, why don't you show us something you could do? And he's just like, fine, come at me, and he just gives them the leg sweep, all of them. Even Peanut Butter's like, damn, like in the background watching. But yeah, he gets the kids just laying on their ass, and that's when I love the face when like Kelly, well, he doesn't know this, but he just
Yeah.
feels someone yelling, hey, and his face
Yeah.
is just terrified. I just love that,
He's
like the
scared,
sweat
man.
again.
I love
He's
that
scared
word
shitless.
bubble too. Really,
Yep.
really sells that panel. Like
Mhm.
just how big it is. You don't see that a lot.
Totally. And then like Kelly just comes at him and they're having this like, crouching tiger, hidden dragon moment where they're just like vibing with their like moves. And that's when like Owen notices the butterfly again and he gets distracted and he gets a freaking Kelly boot to the face. Just knocked on his ass.
One thing I loved about the scene is that when they're quote unquote fighting or like sparring with each other, it's almost like a dance. Like they're so comfortable with
Yeah.
sparring with each other. It's so like natural and it looks really effortless. It was
Until
it
he
was
gets
really beautifully done.
distracted with that Ling Zhan booty call, aka the
Oh
butterfly,
yeah. Oh yeah.
aka, you know what I'm saying? Nah,
This
jokes
this really
aside.
reminded me of that the scene from Shang-Chi, like the Mandarin fighting Shang-Chi's mom, like at the
Ooh,
beginning
yeah.
of the gate,
Yep.
and they're just fighting and dancing and doing that kind of stuff. I can just picture kind of like a peaceful music in the background as they're
Yep.
dancing. I don't know, but I just love
Yeah,
that.
they're like vibing, No, I love that. Yeah, that's a really good comparison. And yeah, no, so we see that in the next page, we see that, Kelly's partner is actually someone else who's working with Wei Lun, and he's reporting to him. He's basically been monitoring the Johnson family for Wei Lun. So you see that there's nothing another typical day mostly, and I'm assuming here that's where he's gonna relay his suspicions regarding how Kelly has like kung fu skills basically, and maybe Owen's training them, so he's training the kids. And but they already knew that from last issue because they were overhearing them outside the window. Because as we know, curtains are one of the biggest villains in the series. So now we go back to the temple where Chu Feng is talking to Ma Guang, who says that he wasn't able to return with Owen Johnson. And that's where Ma Guang returns to the Dragon Guard and lets him know that they failed. And we see that there's a little Scorched Earth Clan team assembling here, and that they're going to be, obviously in the last page, getting ready to be dispatched and sent to extract Owen from from home.
Yeah, I think what was that? Is it called? I think I was looking in the RC Coda. That team's called the Dragon's Claw. Is that right?
Yep, Dragon's Claw. We've
That
got
okay, okay.
Jin,
I
we've
wasn't
got
sure. I like that.
Kanabo. Yeah, we've got Jin, Kanabo, and I forgot the other two's name, but yeah. So I actually really like these characters. Some of them they have loud personalities, and we even get some cool moments later on with them. But yeah, I really like the design as well. Really badass. I remember the first time this moment happened, I was like, oh shit, like
Yeah,
hearing
yeah.
this, like, oh, it's
And
about to go down.
another awesome cliffhanger. And so
Yep.
and I wonder how much that bat weighs that guy's picking up because that thing looks damn heavy.
Right?
Uh,
And fucking Smash Bros. Style, man.
I think it's pretty cool too that they're pretty different from all the other ninjas or fighters in the temple or Scorched Earthland that we've seen so far. Like each one of them is very unique with a different
Yeah,
weapon,
that's
looks
true.
like a
Mhm.
That's
different
true.
fighting style.
Yeah,
So that's definitely gonna be interesting to see next issue.
yeah. And now we get another, installation. Is that the word? No, I don't like that word. We get another installment of RC Coda, but before that, we actually get our first ever letter section of Firepower, and it's really cool actually because what do you call it? We get people mentioning Invincible and other things. Most of the letters here are pretty positive, just general excitement for Firepower. But as we go down into the RC Coda, we get a lot of jokes because we see here, Chris Sami's making a pot of coffee, and they're just bantering, and he's just like, he's just like, oh, like, why are you making coffee at 9:30? I didn't want to fall asleep. And he's just like, how old are you? Are you 40 yet? He's like, I'm 40. It's just like, these just two guys talking life, you know what I mean? But anyway,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of comparison between, Samnee and Kirby. And he says, yeah, he said, I'll be 41 this year. All those memes about Jack Kirby doing things by the time he was 43 really lit a fire under my ass. And I just find that super hilarious.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I you just love seeing like the love of the different comics that we love too, and just the love of the characters, like say like Chris Samnee, I think he said like Fantastic Four is his favorite team, so just that kind of stuff I found interesting, and then it goes into I love how clueless Chris Samnee is at which page, which issue, like which issue
Yeah.
different moments happen at, and I just love that.
You can tell he's been hustling. He's just been doing so many pages, page
Oh
after
yeah. Oh
page. And
yeah.
Kirkman even mentions that. He says, like, when I was asking him to do the OGN, he was worried when, Chris would, ask for when the end of this was, because he just kept on asking for pages and pages and pages. And I just find that hilarious. But, God bless, because we've said it before, that prelude is amazing.
And Samnee actually mentions that he grew up not just reading American comics, but manga. So doing the OGN felt very natural to him because he liked that. He didn't have to condense the whole story into like 20, 25 or whatever pages. It was nice to be able to do like the more longer format manga style book.
Yeah, I actually listened to a podcast recently. It was a comic book counseling couple counseling. I forgot the exact name, but everyone knows them. And they recently interviewed not too long ago Chris Samnee and Laura Samnee. So during that interview, Chris said that he grew up in a log cabin and that there were just so many animals around that his dad was a falconer, so he really doesn't like birds. So I just thought that was really funny. I just thought that was something
Oh
random
wow.
and really funny. Yeah, like
That's
just
funny. Yeah, I haven't listened to
oh, it's pretty cool. You should check it out. But yeah,
that.
Chris
Yeah.
is an interesting fella, and I'm always excited. Maybe, who knows? Hopefully one day maybe we'll get Chris on this podcast. That would be amazing. He's one of my favorite artists ever. But
Yeah.
yeah, moving on. This is just an interesting RC Coda edition because I felt like the beginning was so just random. They're just talking about random things, and I thought it was really cool. Yeah, so we get a little bit of talk about the page count and everything, but then later we see that, Chris drew Converse in one of the panels and Robert didn't like that, so he got to stick with the Jordans,
I love that.
Yeah,
He always likes
yeah.
to get away
He's trying to
with
get out of
drawing
it. Yeah.
when he can. That's funny.
Mm.
I love his argument for it too. Like he's in disguise, like so it's okay. So there's actually a story reason for that, and I love that. Something I also loved was that kind of summarized page of that time right after the prelude between the prelude and volume one. That page, him just joking, like they could have made the prelude into like two or three, just a couple of those pages, and then just summarize the book. That was just funny. It obviously would not have been nearly as impactful, but I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, for sure. I agree actually. And it's funny because at this point, Robert, and we said this last episode, we're like, Robert's gonna want to do an OGN format every issue because it's just so freeing, it's so liberating, and to be able to really expand on the story and go into things that you normally wouldn't be able to, and give, the fights room to breathe and everything else room to breathe and really shine. It's beautiful. And I think issue two, which is the one we reviewed earlier in this episode, is a good example of that, where we saw that, that really long fight sequence was amazing and worth every single page, in my opinion.
I mean, who knows? Maybe when the series is coming to an end, we will get another OGN for the conclusion or the prologue or whatever you want to call it. I think that would be cool too. Kind of wrap everything up.
I like that. I like that idea. I love how just switching to this one scene. I thought that was hilarious, and one of our favorite scenes of this issue was one that Robert Kirkman didn't actually like. Was when Haley was talking about the climate change, and just him saying that he didn't want to put that very stereotypical bratty young girl stereotype on Haley. So right after that, he tried to make her seem as sweet as possible to kind of sweeten her up to us. But I just love that perspective.
I agree. I mean, they even like name drop like a Lisa Simpson comparison, I think. So yeah, and
Yeah.
there's like Lisa's not necessarily a brat, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting also that the aesthetic is, they say that because of Chris, the fact that he lives in St. Louis, like that's a large inspiration for the aesthetic for the city and the general land, where they live currently in Firepower. So I thought that was very interesting, very cool. And he just talks about how, yeah, like, the outside of the house, he just needs to look outside for reference outside his house, like Chris Samnee, because a lot of the houses in his neighborhood look like that. So that's what he draws inspiration from. And I thought that was really cool.
For sure. And he can put a little bit of hints in of his stuff in there. Like he put that the arc, like he mentioned the arc, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so excited for people to see that." And then Robert's like, "Oh, that happened last issue." Like again, just his just his cluelessness of the issue count. I just love it, just how hard this guy's working. Gotta appreciate it.
I actually didn't notice this the first time, but a funny thing is in the letters section, when they're still thinking of what to call it, someone suggests hot takes, which I think would have been pretty cool too. But
I like that.
Arsicoda's
I
pretty
actually
good.
like that.
So yeah,
That's a
which
good
one?
name.
Which one would you guys prefer, hot takes or Arsicoda?
I like RC Coda because it just feels like, what do you call it? But
It's
Hot
just
Takes is
perfect.
pretty good. Hot Takes is pretty good too. Hot Takes would have been good for sex criminals, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, no, overall, I was really, this was a really good issue. It ends on another cliffhanger, so bittersweet, but we love it because we always keeps us coming back for more. Obviously, the next issue is going to be super exciting because it's setting up this fight with the Dragon's Claw, and as we're going to see in the next issue on the cover, it seems like like Owen's going to be somewhere formal, so, wearing the suit and all, so it might be a big disaster. Who knows? I'm looking forward to the next issue personally because I can't wait to see what happens. I know that like these dragons, like we said earlier, they're pretty badass. They're all pretty specialized. They're not going to send. This is the team. This is the backup, right? Not the backup in terms of like the backup fighters, but like this is they sent the friends at first in hopes of convincing. And now they're sending like the
This is the
physical.
real deal. This is when
Exactly.
they want to get shit done. This is who they send.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
They tried to do it the nice way, and
yeah,
now they're doing it the hard way.
exactly. So this is gonna be interesting to see what happens next issue. And yeah, I'm pretty excited. And if you guys want to check us out or email us so that we could get some discussion going on the podcast. Just send us your questions, comments, or anything at firepowerpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter at firepowerpod. So yeah, follow us on social media. Come talk about everything Firepower with us. And if you wanna, help with the algorithm for the podcast, just like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, thanks everyone for checking us out. Keep on reading. See you later.